This channel supports Extra Life in its efforts to raise money for the Children's Miracle Network. For more information about how to donate and join in their efforts, go to the link displayed here. Extra Life. Play games, heal kids. What up, everybody? This is your boy Black Magus, and since E3 is rapidly coming, it's time to talk about the event. So, just gonna really quick run down some of my predictions for E3 and some of my thoughts leading in. This is going to be a pretty interesting year because there's a lot on the table for 2018, especially now that Sony, one of their execs came out and put out in the atmosphere that we're in the end stages of this current generation. Basically, he just said that they're going through the final phases of winding down this current generation with PlayStation 4, for them at least, which probably is kind of a signal for maybe Microsoft as well, although Microsoft's a little sketchy because they've done so much in this current generation with their multiple iterations. Yes, Sony does have the PlayStation 4 Pro to go along with the original PlayStation 4, but for the most part Sony's been kind of level, whereas Microsoft has been continually putting out these different versions and making all these adjustments just for this generation. And it's like, these consoles came out 2013, and within the 5 years we've had 3 different Xbox One X's, and it's not just remodeling the consoles like we had in previous generations where they'll scale down just the size and stuff like that. There's actually been technological bumps. Why that word was so hard for me to say at that moment, I don't know, but yeah, technological bumps were made that changed what the console was. Whereas Sony did the same thing, but they only did it once, and so it's weird to see this. Hopefully next generation we won't get this, because while they've been able to get some success with the PS4 Pro and the different versions of the Xbox One, I don't think that at the end of the day it was as worth it as they possibly thought it was. I think they kind of all just overreacted to the loud minority within the gaming community, because I know a lot of people want to say these consoles aren't powerful enough, they're not doing 60 frames per second 1080p consistently, then they're garbage, blah blah blah. But at the end of the day, people were still buying these consoles, they were still playing these consoles because they wanted the software. And I think that Sony realized that more than anything, that the software matters more. So while they did the PS4 Pro thing, I felt like they were more comfortable with just saying, look, we'll just do something moderate just to appease the loud noise makers, but we're not going any steps further. Whereas Microsoft has pretty much been pushing the envelope to try to establish themselves as the most powerful thing and to get themselves as close to or as akin to a PC experience as possible, in hopes that they can garner more success, since they kind of stumbled out the blocks with the Xbox One at first. And it's funny because I've always maintained that the Xbox One in its original form was fine. The issue with them wasn't necessarily the hardware itself, it was their presentation, and that clipped them when they came out with this whole you gotta have it online all the time and can't trade discs, and Don Matrix and his flub up, and just the way that like Larry Herb was towards the press when people were bucking against some of the policies they were looking to implement with the Xbox One. Microsoft had a fine console as it was, but their negative press led people to start focusing on other stuff to nitpick. I feel like the hardware thing ended up being a nitpick point because of how they presented themselves, and it just became part of the narrative for them, and that's why they felt like they had to keep reacting with first the Xbox One S. First thing was getting rid of the camera so they could lower the price point because Sony had put in a console with a lower price point that was considered more powerful at the time, and then they lowered their price point by getting rid of that camera. Then they came up with the Xbox One S so they can have a slight bump over. And then Sony decided, we'll just go ahead and do a Pro, since everybody keeps bugging us about we need to have something that does constant 60 frames per second. So it's like, okay, we'll give you a 4K machine. That's not necessarily a 4K machine, but with checkerboarding, hey, that shit looks good. I can attest to that personally, but at the same time, they felt like they needed to appease people by giving them those options, the 60 frames per second in particular. And it's like, okay, so they did they did the Pro, but then Microsoft was like, no, we have to have the most powerful console on the market, because that seems to be the only reason people are buying PlayStation, which I feel like they lost the narrative of what was going on at that point when they did that, because at the end of the day, part of the reason, or the majority of the reason why Sony has been doing so well is because of the games. Looking at like the releases when Microsoft first came out and they started talking about, we're gonna get all these games, all these exclusives, we're gonna be people who support exclusive games also, and then you only get a handful of exclusives. Still to this day, some of these exclusives haven't been released. There's been a bunch canceled, things like that. So yeah, Xbox One X is a better machine tech-wise, but it kind of goes back to slightly how the PlayStation was in the beginning, PlayStation 3 was in the beginning of its life cycle, where PS3 was a better machine than the Xbox 360 when they both launched, but higher price point, not as much library support, and it's stumbled. And this is what happened to Microsoft. I think it's what's continuing to clip Microsoft is that Sony realized it's like, yo, we need to put out games and we need to put out exclusives and give you a reason why you should come here, because yeah, we can tout like Xbox did in the last generation, we have the better version of the third-party games, but that's not going to only work. That's only going to work on a select few people. End of the day, the exclusives and the variety of content is what's carrying Sony through. And Microsoft is not competing in that area. And this is why I think this E3 is going to be pivotal, because we have to see if Microsoft's going to finally make that turn and try to go back to what they promised us at the beginning of the generation. Many people who know me know my personal thoughts is this is the last Xbox console anyway. I felt like they were positioning it to not necessarily just be a game box when they first started. It was supposed to be a multimedia center, and then that got all fouled up when people reacted to the fact that, like, oh, you're talking about TV and you got all these weird stipulations and rules and you have to have the camera and all that. People bucked, and then once they decided, okay, we'll dedicate it to games, they didn't dedicate it to games as the way that people wanted, with their own exclusive content. And Sony has maintained that, yeah, we're a game system first. You're just going to be making games. You can do all this other stuff, but it's for games, and we're going to make you games. And as time has gone, you've seen more and more PlayStation exclusives start to drop, and you have a wide variety of these exclusives coming now. They're still announcing stuff. You've got stuff that's still on the way, even though they claim that they're in the end game for this console. You're gonna see 4 of them at this E3 with The Last of Us Part 2, Death Stranding, Days Gone, and Ghost of Tsushima, which they're gonna be featuring. Whereas we don't necessarily know what Microsoft is bringing. A lot of the people feel, yeah, Crackdown 3 will probably finally get announced as far as release dates, when it's going to actually come. But that's a game that's had some very bad press, unfortunately, and people are very skeptical of. So hopefully they can knock it out the park with that. You're probably going to get another Halo and another Gears announced. Thoughts of maybe a Fable, and of course you're going to get a Forza, the annual Forza release. But there's a lot of different speculation and a lot of rumors that Sony's coming with all these other things, because they have some smaller exclusive stuff like Medieval, whatnot. But people are actually looking forward to Sony, like, expanding more on like the FromSoft game that was teased at the Game Awards last year, and other properties that they have lingering around. They just knocked it out the park with God of War. Detroit seems to be getting more favorable of feedback than negative, so that's good. They had their Horizon, they had Uncharted 4, they had Bloodborne, and they got other stuff that people are waiting. Like I said, so Sony's in a very good position to where they just don't need to do something stupid, and they'll be fine. Whereas Microsoft kind of is still in the we gotta make big moves and big gambles. I think what you're gonna see from Microsoft is a lot of third-party connections, and they're gonna try to revitalize that strategy that made the Xbox 360 such a success. Is it too little, too late? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. But I feel like their whole conference is going to be third-party heavy. I hope they surprise me and just hit us with a shit ton of like exclusive games that's only coming to the Xbox platform. And I say exclusives. Sadly, I say this with as loosely as possible because of the whole PC thing now, where all their games come out on PC. They're probably going to push the backwards compatibility some more and expand that library. That seems to be doing very, very well for them. As much shit as Sony takes for backwards compatibility, it's not hurting them as much as people want to think. But for Microsoft, backwards compatibility is a huge thing. I mean, they just put out a bundle where they're going to give you a free copy of the backwards compatible version of Red Dead Redemption. Say what you will, that's something, I guess. Especially if you're into the backwards compatibility thing and you never played Red Dead. And I'm trying to, if you don't realize it, I'm trying to be as diplomatic as possible because, yeah, a lot of people who know me know I only own a PlayStation. I have not had an interest in the Xbox. It's not because I have some, brand loyalty, console war type thing. It's just that I've always preferred I always preferred the software that Sony has put out. I've always had a more, I guess you could say, Japanese type lean in my taste in gaming. Like, I love the RPGs and all of that stuff like that. Never been a huge shooter person, which was something that was big for Xbox people. And I've never been a huge multiplayer person, which again is something that Xbox has always championed. I like the quirkiness of they like Detroit and things like that, and a lot of the single player experiences. And Sony seems to present more compelling single player experiences to me, especially now that certain things like Mass Effect went multi-platform, and now that you can play Microsoft exclusives on PC, so now I can actually experience things like Gears, which has probably been the only title that they've come out with that super interests me. It's a moot point for me. It's just financially, it's not a wise decision because they don't offer enough for me to make that pull. Anyway, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see that. Now, I haven't talked about Nintendo because Nintendo has become this outlier, and not being unfair to Nintendo by saying that, it's just that Nintendo has always walked the beat of their own path completely, whereas Sony kind of has their own style and flavor, and Microsoft has their way of presenting things. Nintendo's kind of like decided to be more separative than the others, with their first party stuff being their main feature, not being big on third party, although they've started to adopt more third party titles and have a better relationship with third parties, even though a lot of their content that they're coming out third party wise is old, sadly. But it's like Nintendo's gonna be Nintendo, and they're always gonna do well enough for Nintendo. Maybe not in the public eye, but for Nintendo they do damn well. Their fans are very, very loyal. And to be fair, their first party stuff, when they drop some amazing experiences. So, but you probably going to see some more third party stuff come with Nintendo. Everybody's anticipating their first party stuff. I mean, you have Mario Tennis about to come out. There have been talks about the Pokemon games that were leaked. They've exposed them. The ones that are coming now aren't going to be that compelling, probably, like the Pokemon Let's Go, Eevee, and Pikachu seems to be kind of just rehashes of the Pokemon Go app, from what I heard. But there is going to be a proper Pokemon. They've acknowledged that, so you may get something for that. They still have iconic characters in game titles that they can still drop. And the Switch's uniqueness of the at home on the go thing opens them to a lot of different experiences that they can have and drop on that console. So Nintendo's gonna be fine, especially since now, like with the Switch being considered a successful console that's not necessarily predicated upon gimmick like people consider the original Wii. Nintendo's gonna be fine. They're gonna give us their brief direct and then the Treehouse thing. Hopefully you get to see some Metroid. That would be cool to see. I think they're going to talk some more. I think there's a Kirby game that's either coming or has dropped. They're probably going to have plans for Splatoon since they've been consistently supporting Splatoon and Splatoon 2. You're going to get, your Smash Brothers, of course. But I'm curious as to what is the other titles that they're going to get within their library. I'm not really that big on these third-party things because, again, it's probably going to be a lot of third-party games that have already been out on other platforms, but they're finally getting it. So that's good for people who own a Switch, but for those who don't own a Switch, that may not be a big draw, especially if you already have a console and you've experienced some of those games, So, but I do really think Nintendo is poised for another good year, and I'm very curious to see what they're going to have. Now that I've talked about the platforms, and I didn't just not acknowledge PC only because I like to keep PC kind of separate sometimes from this argument, because PC is going to do what PC is going to do. PC is a very unique platform, and you don't necessarily sit and talk about what the PC platform is going to do as a whole, because it's not like it's under one entity. Like Sony controls the PlayStation, Microsoft controls the Xbox, Nintendo controls the Nintendo consoles. So you have this one collective entity dictating the policies and strategies for how these platforms are going to present it, where computers is just basically the tech. I'm waiting to see what new tech we're going to get. We're going to get the PC gaming show. We're going to get new NVIDIA and AMD cards and processors and Intel processors, things like that. So that's where PC lies for me. It's like, what's the tech? As far as the games are concerned, you're going to see a lot of the third-party games for the consoles come there, so we already know that. Exclusives, I don't know of anything that I can think of that you can anticipate for PC, considering, again, a lot of these games are cross-platform anyway. So, but we'll see. As much as I hate the presentation of the PC gaming show, I'm gonna watch that shit. I already know that, because I want to see exactly what new tech and what not comes with that. You know what I mean? Anyway, so predictions. I'm gonna try to keep my predictions as light as possible, because you're gonna see a more comprehensive discussion on a podcast from my boy Eurostrix. But things like quick takes and predictions. I do think you're gonna get a Crackdown 3 release date. Not just footage, not just gameplay. They're gonna announce, damn it, this game is coming out, and it's coming out this year, 2018. I don't think Microsoft can afford to delay this anymore, because they've already lost a lot of momentum behind that game. and it's becoming one of those like spectacles, like how Final Fantasy 15 at one point got that to that way, or how right now the remake of Final Fantasy 7 is getting Kingdom Hearts. These are spectacles that have been announced, and people are just sitting there like biting their nails and shaking their fists, wondering when the fuck are you gonna finally come out and bring this thing. And it's starting to cause worry and disenchantment. Crackdown 3 has been giving, like, the feedback loop on that is not good, and they're just gonna have to put that game out. Just can't wait for perfection anymore. The things that you promised in the beginning with the power of the cloud and all that stuff, that's long worn off. You just gotta shoot your shot with that game, and I think they're gonna shoot their shot this fall with Crackdown 3. I do think that you're going to get another Gears before you get another Halo. I don't know why I feel that way, but I do feel like Gears is going to be pushed forward, and you may not even get any Halo news this year from Microsoft. I also expect that temporary price point to be considered a permanent price drop for the Xbox One X. As it's doing okay, but at least I assume it's doing okay since Microsoft don't drop their numbers anymore. It's kind of hard to gauge the success of that platform. So, yeah. But yeah, and I feel like they're going to announce a Fable game as well. Definitely feel like a Fable is coming. That's all I expect from Microsoft. The outline prediction being they actually will announce a new exclusive title that you've never heard before, but that's me hoping beyond hope. More likely you're just gonna get sequel, to be quite honest, or like with the Fable thing, probably a reboot of the franchise. As far as Sony, I know they said they only are focused on those 4 games. They are going to announce at least 2 new exclusives from their studios. Major exclusives, I should say. 2 major exclusives, 3 minor exclusives I expect from Sony. That's just the way I've always felt like it's going to be. I feel like you are going to definitely see Shenmue 3 finally. I think you're going to see Final Fantasy 7 finally in action as well. Not necessarily on the Sony stage, but just period. I think also with Sony, you're going to probably get another permanent price drop for the PS4 Pro. I believe they've already announced something, but I think that they're going to do something else eventually. I think it might end up just being $400 permanently, to be quite honest. Not 400, but 350. It is 400, isn't it? I'm trying to think. PS4 Pro. Now I feel like I need to look at the price because I didn't pay full price for mine. So sorry. Yeah, it's 400 now. I feel like you're probably gonna get a permanent 350 price drop, not just a temporary thing. And that's about it from Sony. Sony really doesn't have to do much, but just show off what they have, you know. But as far as going back to the third party thing, it's hard to make predictions now with all these people leaking everything. It seems like any prediction you're gonna make is gonna like already have been exposed. But I do think you're gonna get the Kingdom Hearts 3 release date for this year. I know a lot of you guys are doubting that, but it is going to happen. You are going to get a new Elder Scrolls game announced by Bethesda. I know you guys are pining for that. It's gonna happen. I really, really think that that's gonna happen this year. You probably get a Doom 2 announcement as well. What else could be coming back big? I would like this. This is the outline for the third party thing prediction. Rockstar will announce Midnight Club returning. It's funny because I only did this because I had a conversation with my boy Cardiac Sumo, and I feel like now is the time. Just go ahead and do a Midnight Club. Like, You're gonna come out and kill everybody with Red Dead Redemption 2. GTA Online is still going strong. Fuck it, start doing your side shit now again. Like Midnight Club, bring it. I want it. Fuck, need that. Come on, people. But yeah, the surprises probably aren't gonna be that deep with this E3. I guess my other Sony prediction, which I'll probably share with you on the podcast, is you're gonna get a release date for The Last of Us. I'll be more specific with that on the other podcast, but I think The Last of Us is about to get a release date as well. I think Days Gone is gonna get a release date as well. And I guess the only other prediction I have is that they're going to show gameplay of Death Stranding, and we still aren't going to actually know what the fuck Kojima is making or doing with that game. So, but I'll go into more detail, like I said in the podcast. Can't wait. Of course, you're going to be seeing a lot of coverage, like I usually do. I've taken that Monday off so I can sit and watch the Monday conferences. Of course, the rest of the conferences are during the weekend. I actually work Saturday, but I'm just going to be able to catch most of Microsoft. So I'll just repeat it. Not Microsoft, but EA's E3 Play or whatever they call it on Saturday. So I'll be able to go back and review that and to discuss that with you guys. Things like that. And then Sunday I'll knock out the press conference on there with my reviews. And then, of course, the big day Monday, me and my boy Eurostrick's probably going to plan some special video content for the WiseGuy Gaming Sports Entertainment. WiseGuy Gaming Sports Entertainment channel. So it's going to be crazy. Can't wait for Monday. The magic of E3. It always, regardless of how much it's evolving and maybe devolving into something that's not as important as you're getting all these crazy announcements beforehand, the spectacle is still great, and it's like a cool gamer event that I just love the experience. You know what I mean? But anyway, as always, feel free to hit me up. Let me know what you think, and I'll hunt you later. This your boy Black Vegas, and I'm out. Deuces.